All right. I guess that works.
All right, you ready?
No. But
We're live streaming.
we are live streaming.
Let me know when you're ready.
Oh no. I have the audio from the stream in my ear. All right. We're good.
Ready?
Yep.
And we are live with another episode of SEC Tavern Talk. I'm your host, Rob, joined by my co-host, Wes Meeborn. What's going on, man?
What's up? Roll Tide, go Blazers. Good to be back.
I love the consistency. Love it. Oh, man. How's your week been?
Man, it has been up and down. Love it. And I will say it's unusual that I'm this happy after my coaches were that mad. But we'll talk about it more. But both Bama and UAB made headlines with their coaches going ballistic, and I think it's great. There's passion. We're in it, and we're in the thick of it, man. It's October. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, man. But you wanna recap your game?
Man, I tell you what, I was impressed with Bama pretty much through the whole thing. There wasn't much to be upset about, except I guess Saban saw something that we didn't. But overall, the final score 40-17. Milroe didn't have a great day throwing the ball, but he didn't need to. I think the standout from this game was the effectiveness of the rushing attack. But I mean, you had Milroe, Jace McClellan, and Roydell Williams all carrying the ball. Yards per average. I mean, you didn't have any 100 yards rushing, but Milroe had the long 50+ yard run. McClellan and Williams, it just seemed like you hand the ball off and they'd get 3, 4, 5 yards of carry. And, you do that for 60 minutes, a lot of times you're going to win. And another stat that really stood out, Bama 6 penalties for 40 yards. I'm not happy that we got 6 penalties, but when you consider going on the road, Starkville with all them daggum cowbells, with the drama that's been around the program, relatively mistake-free football, I think, did enough not to beat yourself. And then really the other thing was Rodgers, for whatever reason, Bama has had his number. I think a stat popped up. It was like 2014 or 2015 since Mississippi State had thrown a touchdown. And Rodgers was over in the first 2 games, got 1 touchdown in this game, throwing the ball, but also threw 3 picks. So on the one hand, it was good to see some solid defense from the aerial attack. I mean, we've come to expect it against Rodgers, but also this defense hadn't gotten many turnovers over the course of the year. So it was really good to see some interceptions out of them. Really good ball hawking going on in the secondary. So maybe ease up on Arnold a little bit, Saban. He's doing his job. But overall, I think really good, solid performance. It's what we want to see. It's what we expect to see. It's Bama football, so it's good to see it back and hope it continues.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch the game, but 40-17 says a lot about it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I was at Auburn for this squeak by win we had.
Yeah, what happened?
I honestly don't know, man. Like, from where I was sitting, it sure did look like we got screwed by the refs a lot. But from what I heard from an Alabama fan on TV, he
I
did.
wasn't on TV.
Uh, somebody, a friend of mine, was saying he said I was being a homer for saying it was biased against Georgia, but uh, you know what I saw from the refs aside, Georgia missed like 8,000 tackles and got beat on the outside like crazy. They had so many rushing yards, it was ridiculous.
Mhm.
um, their quarterbacks rushed for so many yards, and it. I'll say this: one, we're not quite as fast on the outside as we have been the last 2 years,
Mhm.
which is a concern. We had one of our DBs that has been out all season just came back for that game. He's been injured. Javon Bullard. He got beat on some plays he doesn't normally. I think that's partly conditioning because he does not normally get beat on stuff on the types of plays that he did. Um, normally teams want to stay away from him. He and Lad McConkey both came back for this game. I think they're both needing a lot of conditioning to get
Yep.
back to where they were. Um, but here's the thing: any any team's going to come out after you when you're number one. They're going to give you their best shot. Auburn came prepared with a game plan. It worked. I don't want to read too much into this and act like Georgia's still the number one team. Whatever. I don't think they should be after this week, nor do I wish they were because I don't like having a target. I wish we'd have fallen to 2 or 3. Um, and in years past, it seems to help motivate us when we drop. So, but we didn't. It is what it is. Um, Brock Bowers literally put us on his shoulders and said, I'm going to take over this game.
Yeah, that
And
last drive was insane.
man, so when he had one drive where only one of them counted because they called illegal touching. What they really meant was illegal receiver downfield, but or ineligible receiver, excuse me.
Mhm.
Because illegal touching is when you go out of bounds and come back in. That
Right.
didn't happen. It clearly didn't happen because he went straight up the middle. Like he was in the middle of the field when he got the ball. He wouldn't have gone out of bounds. But he made 2 in a row where he caught the ball one-handed, turning like spinning around
Mhm.
because the ball was not where he wanted it, or it was not thrown well, and he spun around with one hand and caught it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I lost especially after the first one, I lost my mind. And then after the second one, I was like, again? Like, what? I didn't know. I didn't have words for the second one.
Yeah.
Of course, then it got called back. But because somebody was probably covering him up on the line of scrimmage, which is stupid. It's not his fault. But anyway, like that, and then that last drive where he just takes over and then he runs it, what was it, 40 yards into the end zone? I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, this dude, you can't convince me he's not the best player in the country. Like, the dude is just insane.
Yeah.
Um, but Georgia has a lot to work on. I think Georgia, some people are saying, like, if you ask Paul Feinbaum, he's like, they may just not be as elite this year as far as talent wise. And I'm like, they've got elite talent. It's just young.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing with the same thing that Alabama does. They have a year or two that are absolutely dominant, and then they still have the talent and the depth, but it's got to grow up, and
Mhm.
that takes time. You can't just come out. That's what people don't realize. Some Georgia fans, Alabama fans, but really other fans that talk smack, as they don't realize you can't just be the you can't win national championships every single year for 10 years in a row. It's just not
Mhm.
it's not going to work. It's not practical. Could Georgia three-peat this year? It's possible, but right now it's not looking likely. But then again, nobody's looking dominant right now. So who really knows? You
Yeah,
know,
that's fair.
right now, I'm just glad to get the win and move on.
Yeah.
You know, and Kirby's pretty honest about the team. He's like, he said after the game was over, he's like, I don't know how good we are right now. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart's an honest man. I like it. I like that he's just straightforward. Like, I don't know what I'm going to see from Beck the rest of the season. I personally don't think he should be our starting quarterback, but I trust Kirby. So, because at first I didn't think Stetson should be our quarterback, and he proved me wrong. So, I personally think the two behind him are better than him. But here we are. He's our quarterback. That's what we got.
Yep.
We got to roll with it. So, onward to Kentucky. Um, Speaking of Kentucky, they whooped Florida's butt, and I just laughed my head off because I picked Kentucky to win, but I did not expect it to be like that.
Yeah, that was oof.
Ray Davis rushes for 280 yards.
That's a
What
man
the
right there.
heck? That shows you the push they got up there, though.
Hmm.
Like, that's insane. Um, but yeah, they get it done 33-14. They had a 23-0 lead. Like, that's crazy. And the
Yeah.
and the insane thing about Ray Davis, he had 200 in the first half. Like, that's just
Yep.
crazy. I think they said it was no, I think he had 200 with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. I think that's what it was. So he got most that in the first quarter. That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I just, but it's always fun to see Florida lose. So, uh, and now Kentucky's ranked and Florida isn't, which I find awesome. Texas A&M goes to Arkansas and beats the Hogs 34-22. I did not expect that one. Not like that, especially. Missouri goes to Vanderbilt, beats them 38-21. No big surprise there. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Um, the more surprising thing, Missouri is undefeated so far. They're looking actually fairly good. Time will
Yeah.
tell.
So something to slip in here. When I was doing a little research for the episode today, was looking up the leading rushers in the SEC. No surprise, Ray Davis at the top by a mile. He's the only one averaging more than 100 yards a game. You know who the number 2 running back is in the country or in the conference right now?
I'm gonna guess Missouri's running back.
Yeah, Cody Schrader out of Missouri. He's
Wow.
got now he's got 463 yards on the year so far. To give you an idea, he's number 2. Davis has 594. But those are the top 2. No Bama running backs in the top 5. No Georgia running backs in the top 5. No Rocket Sanders. I mean, you got to get to number 5 before you get to Quinshon Judkins. Like it's weird to see this balance or this imbalance of rushing attack in the conference, but Missouri is right up there, and he's a big reason why they're undefeated.
Yeah, that's crazy. Um, I don't even know, man. That's crazy. Uh, how is Missouri have the second leading? Kentucky has the first, and then Missouri. Like
Yep.
that's just it's insane, man. Oh, and then I have Missouri's kicker on in fantasy, so
You're like, run it, get it into the red zone, and then stall out. That's what you want
yeah,
every single time.
and then kick a 60-yarder so I can get 5 points or whatever it is every time.
That's it. That's it.
But let their kicker just have like 6 50+ yard field goals and give me 30 points.
I mean, he's a beast too. I mean, it's what was it week 2? Or was it that
That's
huge
Kansas
walk-off
State.
win against Kansas State? Yeah.
That's when I went and picked him up
Oh,
because
of
I was
course you
like,
did.
he kicked a 60-yarder, 61.
If you can do that, you've made the team.
Oh man. All right. And then Tennessee beats up on South Carolina. That sucked. Um, Nobody wanted that except for Tennessee fans.
Yeah, that
Um,
was rough.
yeah. Although I thought it was funny that Rattler said this is basically like their Super Bowl, so congratulations or something. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, ooh, that's ballsy to say after you just get beat like that.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, to be fair, what Tennessee had 2 big losses last season in the regular season. One was against Georgia, which a lot of people saw coming, even if not quite as bad as it was. But when they lost to South Carolina right there before rivalry week, I mean, it was a shock to all of us, even me, who picked South Carolina to win, did not see that kind of beatdown. So it
yeah, no
was,
one, no one saw it like that.
yeah,
Um, and then the freaking best matchup of the week, Ole Miss at home beats LSU. That was crazy. That finish was just insane.
basketball on turf.
And Ole
Good.
Miss got screwed too. That one touchdown that they gave LSU.
Yep.
Woo.
Yeah, that was rough. And if they had lost that game, and that was the reason why, ooh, I would not have wanted to be on that field. But my word, it was still hard fought game all around. Not gonna lie, I was I was glad to see Ole Miss win that one as a Bama fan. That
Mhm.
gave LSU a loss in the conference in the division. So um, the West is still, I mean, Bama still controls its own destiny, obviously. But if something happens and it's a two-way tie between Bama and Ole Miss at the end of the season, Bama's got that tiebreaker.
So speaking of Ole Miss, you remember when they pulled out against Tennessee and they had the mustard bottles and the golf
Yep,
balls?
golf balls. Yeah,
Auburn pulled a small version of that, not with throwing stuff, but with the injuries.
really.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I can't 100% say that all those injuries weren't actual injuries, but 4 out of 5 plays, they went down, and at least 3 of them, after they were down for a little bit, they came walking off perfectly fine, and I'm just like, like this is, and it had been going on before that too, and so I'm like,
Mhm.
none of y'all are coming off like hurt. This is a little bit, and it was always when after we'd have like a big play or something. Now we weren't. Granted, we weren't like we were kind of going a little bit quicker, but we weren't like Tennessee fast. We weren't trying to go no huddle and
Yeah.
stuff. But still, like that affects the momentum. And there was
Mhm.
one play I didn't see it because I was in the stadium, but um, I saw it later because somebody had mentioned it to me, and then I ended up seeing it. There was at least one play where he was told to go down. He was standing up perfectly fine, and then he was told to get down, and he got down. I was just like, "What?"
Now that's when it gets egregious. I can see that. I don't like feeling, let alone accusing another team of
Well, and
cheating.
that's why like
And that's
Georgia fans
cheating. That's what
at
it
a
is.
certain point Georgia fans started booing, which I understand, but I was kind of like, okay, stop, let's not boo because we don't know for sure,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get the fans booing because at a certain point it starts to look like it.
Yeah.
Um,
If you see like on the Jumbotron or whatever, the instant replay and you see like somebody doing this and then the guy, stops and falls down. Okay, I get that. But yeah, you're right. Anytime there's an injury on the field, unless you've got something like that, that booing is just unconscionable. You can't do that. Like you
well,
just
they were doing it. They were doing it because like they started doing it after one time because it was when they did it multiple plays in a row, and he started walking off without any help. He was just walking off like he wasn't even hurt, and so
yeah.
that I got it, but at the same time, I was like,
No.
or
I
either that or it was right after that someone went down, and I was like, okay, we don't know if he's hurt or not. Let's not boo, you know.
yeah. I tend to side on whoever it is that goes down, unless there's like some pretty
Yeah,
convincing video evidence like that. I don't care how often it is, especially if you're talking like this was what, the 2:30 kickoff or 3:30 kickoff, something like that. So I mean, you're
3:30
talking,
Eastern.
yeah, pretty hot part of the day.
Mhm.
And it's still warm here in the southeast in Auburn. I mean, if they're anything like Birmingham, they hadn't gotten rain in the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah,
So it's going to take a toll. Uh, Not saying that it's always that way, but I don't care how frequent it is. I mean, you can get cramps, get a trainer out there, stretch it out, and you can get up and you want to walk it off. You want to walk off on your own power anyway. So I'm real careful
but
about those
but one
accusations.
there was one moment where they ended up reviewing it and they got it right. But there was
Mhm.
one moment where I'm like, okay, these refs are trying hard in, in their favor because
Mhm.
did you see the play? Did you watch any of the game?
Oh yeah, I watched most of it.
Did you see the Brock Bowers quote unquote fumble?
Yeah, the right after halftime, the back to back drives with a fumble,
When
or was this different?
I don't
Because
remember what.
the second one, I think that was Brock Bowers. He was ruled down.
So he wasn't initially. That's the thing. But when they
Oh, okay.
reviewed it, he was down for like 5 or 6 seconds at least, and he still had the ball. And then after that, they ripped like he was down. He rolled over, still had
Hmm.
the ball like this, deep in his arm's grip, and then eventually he lets go of it because he's already like down, or they rip it out, whatever. But like
Hmm.
you could see him on the replay, like he completely rolled over on the ground and his whole body was just laying on his back. Like there was not a part of his body that wasn't on the ground. And then they're like, "Oh, he fumbled." But guess what happened? Another player was supposedly injured on that play, so they were distracted. And then they came back and said,
Hmm.
"Oh, we got the fumble," so they called it a fumble on the field. And I'm like, "What?"
Well, to be fair, like far be it from me to defend SEC refs, but to be fair, there's sight lines, like depending on where you are, if there's people in the way, if it even looks like a scrum, that's one part of it. Two, if there's an injury that distracts an official, like if he sees that, that's going to take his vision for a second. Um, but then three, as a general rule, especially with instant replay, the general leaning has seemed to be this way for years now. Let it play out, because if it's not a fumble, you can always overturn it. Well, generally speaking, you can overturn it on the replay. But if you call it dead, especially if there's an advance of the ball, then it nullifies that potential turnover. You know?
See, and I've never understood that. To me, it it shouldn't be nullified. It should be reviewable regardless.
Well, the idea though is like if you get if that was a fumble and Auburn picks it up and advances it towards their goal line, but the refs call it dead, then at best Auburn gets the ball where the recovery was, not where they advanced the ball to. And in some cases, it's taken points off the board. Right, you'll see instances where you'll get that what looks like a lateral pass that's dropped. Defender picks it up. There's nobody between him and the goal line. Well, the refs call it dead. There's nothing you can do. There's no part of the rule that says, all right, if the ball carrier was unimpeded to the goal line, certain distance away or what have you, grant those points back.
I'm just
That's
tired.
what
There's certain specific plays in the game that's like this can't be reviewed, and I'm like, well, why can't it? You can look at the
now that
camera.
now that I'm with you on with the camera angles that we've got. I mean, I was screaming for years. Why is there not a camera on
Like,
each side of the goal
and this is
line?
going to be touchy for you, but like going back to the offsides in the national championship game,
100%,
why could that
a
not be
hundred
reviewed?
percent.
That's
Yeah,
stupid.
that was what 2017 was it?
I think it was, but it's like
Yeah,
that should have been reviewable.
yeah, because
Um,
that led to a block punt. It was
right, and
huge momentum
so
shift in the game.
I mean, granted, Georgia did other things to lose that game besides that. I'm just saying that using that as an example in that should be reviewable.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm totally with you, and I would not be surprised as the game continues to evolve with the expansion of the playoff, with the reduction of NIL limits, which is something we talked about earlier this week. I would not be surprised if there were rule changes that would effectively lead to every play being reviewed, not just every scoring play, or if not every play, then every play with a certain level of importance. So you got scoring plays, but you've got first down plays, fourth down plays, potential turnovers, things like that. Um, and so where a punt where on instant replay you see the guy who blocked the punt was actually offsides, I would not be surprised at all if within the next 2 to 3 years that would be a reviewable throw the flag. Because at this point they've shortened the game. They can afford to expand it a
yeah,
little bit longer with the idea of making sure that the game is played more fairly, that the calls aren't missed. And it's a bunch, but you couple refs in general, not just in the SEC, but refs who are continuing to have issues making the right call on the field, the improvement of technology with instant replay, plus everything with wanting to be fair, that aspect of it, which is good. You want a fair competitive game. I think all of the factors there, from what I can tell, um, maybe not necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we get to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just like I get tired of hearing this happen, and they're like, "Oh, that play is not reviewable," and I'm like, that just seems so dumb that some are and some aren't. I'm like, either everything should be or nothing should be. Either make everything reviewable or nothing reviewable. Because then you get in cases and I mean, for example, I mean, I'm gonna switch sports for a second to make a point, but like in basketball, there's been times where they had goaltending before in a key moment of the game, like we're talking about the last 5 seconds of the game,
Yep.
and it's a 1 point game and you have goaltending, but you can't review it. And it's like, bruh, that's the
Yeah.
game. Like you're literally not reviewing what could literally determine the game. And that's just not there's scenarios in football where that's the case. And I'm like, this is not right. Let's get this right. It doesn't make sense to me. But I'm not making the rules, so
I
um
mean, it is what it is. As fans, we're gonna watch no matter what, right? And if if somebody does something we don't like, it just gives us more fodder for a show like this where we can talk and grumble and complain about it. And if we like what happens, then it gives us something to talk about. Hey, this is positive momentum.
yeah. Well, um before I go on to my next um topic, you wanted to discuss something, didn't you?
Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there and kind of get your thoughts on it. That I don't know a whole lot about it, but there's been a shift lately. There's another lawsuit that's being brought, and this time it's challenging NIL limitations. I was reading USA Today. The headline: NCAA conferences could be forced into major NIL change as lawsuit granted class action status. So there's a lot. Long story short, there's a lawsuit going up which has turned into a class action. Um, you may remember with the O'Bannon class action suit some years ago, which led to NCAA football and all of the NCAA licensed games going away because players weren't getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. Well, this particular case that's coming through is really getting to the heart of the additional limitations that are being put on athletes and how they can make money. And it's a federal district judge. So I mean, we're in the upper echelon. Not saying it's going to get to Supreme Court level, but it's not far away. That really what's happening is it's looking at antitrust. It does the NCAA, do the conferences have the authority to put the limitations on the member institutions? And I think that's going to be a very dicey legal game to play. I know good friend of the show, the Wookiee has referred to the NIL change as making NCAA like a semi-pro league, like the NFL light kind of thing. This is the type of change that could make that a reality. And I forget if it was this past week or last week where, and maybe maybe it's even older, where Saban was talking about recruits wanting to get paid for visits. Right? There's the whole landscape of the game is changing, and when you've got a 5-star recruit who's wanting to charge a school $5,000, thousands of dollars for the privilege of coming to see me, you know, that's that's a whole different paradigm shift. And at least in my view, it reminds me of when Steve Spurrier went from Florida to, I think it was the Redskins. I think that's where he went to coach in the NFL. And he went from coaching amateurs who weren't getting paid, who basically had to listen to him, to coaching multimillionaires who had their own attitudes, their own, prima donna egos that they brought to it because, they're hot stuff. And, uh, you know, didn't really feel the need to listen. Now, whether or not that's true, that's just, the imagery that comes to mind. But how much more so is that immaturity present in an 18, 17, 18-year-old getting recruited for college? If it's present in, guys in their early mid-20s in the pros. I just it's gonna be interesting. It hasn't been heard yet. It's just granted the class action status, but it's going to be I think a game changer in the landscape of not just college football, but college sports as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about it because I'm not a big fan of NIL in the first place. I'm
Yeah.
not crazy about it. So, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but I've said them before, so it's kind of beating dead horse. But my biggest thing is with NIL, if you're gonna do it, then it should be solely on the players themselves to make their deals. The school should have zero to do with it. It shouldn't have anything to do with recruiting. Um, like the school should literally have nothing to do with it at all.
Mhm.
It should purely be on the player themselves to profit off themselves through capitalism.
Yeah, like the Olympic model, right? If you're profitable, go out in the free market and get your sponsorship deals with
Right.
equipment companies, local dealership, whatever it is that's gonna get your face on a box of Wheaties.
I mean,
Go do
I
that.
don't even want that, but if we're gonna have NIL, I think that's the way it should be. The one thing I never have understood is who cares if someone signs autographs and sells them?
Yeah.
Who cares? Like that's not even signing a deal. That's just you trying to people buy stuff from you, so why wouldn't you sell it to them? Like it's not a big deal. But Georgia had player that got suspended for 6 games. Todd Gurley. I think it
Yeah.
was 6, multiple games, because he signed autographs and sold them. I mean, like, what do you freaking do? But
Well, Ohio State towards the end of the Tressel years, there was tattoo gate, right? So you had players they got free tattoos, and it was in violation of NCAA rules. It's like, why? Who cares? It's a tattoo. Now, I mean, I hate tattoos. It's a general rule. I think they're dumb and they don't look good. But to your point, it's the same kind of thing. It's like if the tattoo parlor wants to basically provide free advertising, right? They don't get paid for it, but a prominent player is advertising, hey, this tattoo parlor did great work. Go see him. What? Why not? Who loses?
I
Sorry, I
mean,
didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, I mean, if I'm somebody, I'm not even a player. Just say I'm uh somebody, and somebody gives me a free tattoo. If I want one, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
So why can't they? It doesn't make sense. I'm all for capitalism. I'm just not. I just hate the schools profiting off of them, because what's funny is that everyone keeps wanting to have NIL, wants NIL to be in the system, because they say the schools profit off them too much. I'm like, okay, so they're just profiting off of them even more. like what
Yep.
what are you talking about? But like I kind of take the brigands approach to it. Like, oh, poor pitiful me, I get a free full ride scholarship and books paid for, and free housing and free food, and like I heard someone one time, I don't remember who it was, and if it was, I wouldn't call them out, but somebody in the tavern, I think it was, once compared um, college athletes to slavery, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
They pulled a Kaepernick.
I'm like, this is such a joke. Like, when's the last time slaves got offered all that?
Yeah.
No
It,
one is telling them they have to go play there either. They don't even have to go to college. No one is telling them they have to do anything. They're getting an opportunity to go make something big of themselves, and then go to the league where they're actual professionals and make money.
yep.
I'll, I'll keep this brief, but basically, people don't understand that if we go to like making them professional athletes, like on an official scale, that players, there will be no transfer portal. That won't exist
Mhm.
anymore, because they'll have to sign contracts, and they'll have to stay in that contract until it's over. That's what the NFL players do. They
Yep.
don't get to just go into free agency whenever they want. They don't just, oh, I'm going to quit this team and I'm going to go join this team. That's not how it works. When you're a professional athlete and you have a contract, you have to finish out that contract unless you get fired. But
Hmm.
that's a different story. and everybody's just like, oh no, I'm like, there's consequences that come with being deemed as a professional. There are benefits, obviously, because you can make a lot of money, but there are things that come with that. You can't just swap teams all the time, and you sign, you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although I do think that both basketball and football should do what baseball does and say, you don't have to come to college, you can go straight to the pros. But if you come to college, you have to be there for at least 3 years. That way, people don't feel like because I'm not a fan of forcing people. Like, if people don't want to go to college, don't make them go to college. Some people, uh, I mean, there's so many people now that have a college degree, they can't do anything with it. So what if you bomb out in the pros and you don't have anything to fall back on? Well, you made that choice. You made the
Mm-hmm.
adult decision to go straight to the league. But they're like, oh, we need to teach. No, you don't. Once they're 18, that should be their decision. Let them make their decision, and then if they come in, make them stay for at least 3 years. But then you get rid of the one and dones in basketball too, which I'd be all for because it would make players progress more. But that's a whole other issue. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, make it the same for all the sports, and because I think the model in baseball is the best there is as far as going straight from high school to the pros or going to college.
Yeah.
But that's just me. That's just me. A lot of people would disagree with me. I'm probably in the minority.
Well, I think to your point, it brings stability to the programs. Like there's something to be said about the one and done in college basketball, where you've got guys that go and they're only going to be playing for 1 year to check that box so that they're off to the NBA. And now on the one hand, if that's the standard that the NBA wants to set, you got to be careful about coming in and saying, well, you have to do this. Um, but on the other hand, if the schools can uh, have the opportunity to pay players directly, which they might because of uh, this uh, lawsuit that's going on, then it's going to be in the school's best interest to say, if you come here, we want you here for a defined period of time. And there was outcry before all the NIL stuff that, if a student came or student athlete came to a school, he basically signed a contract keeping him there for 4 years for the length of the scholarship. And the big complaint was, well, the coach and the athletic director, they can go do whatever they want, but the kid's stuck there. Okay, but we're going to get back to that, because if the school is going to pay you directly, not just with scholarship, but with stipend and paychecks and all that kind of stuff, then they're going to want a return on their investment. And what they don't want is some guy to come here and go, well, I'm not getting enough playing time, I'm going to transfer to the in-state rival or the conference rival or the division rival. We want you here. This is now an investment. It's contract negotiations go both ways, and it could bring some stability to it. To your point, I think that might be where some of the schools are headed, and it could be that we see it happen on the mid-major level first, right? The group of five can't afford to pay players, to churn them out like that. So they may say, look, if you come here, we're going to need you to stay. Now, if you want to go to one of the big schools and try to make it, fine, right? But if you come here, maybe not 3 years, maybe 2 years, right? Maybe require that you stay. And that I see those limits of not just before you can go to the NFL, because they've set the 3-year limit, but can't transfer anywhere. And that's legally binding. So if you're going to try to transfer, then we're going to take you to court. And that's going to open up a whole other can of worms that we don't have time to get into.
Yeah. Well, before we make picks, I was just thinking about scenarios
Mhm.
about the East and the West because it's so crazy right now. Who would have thought that uh let's see, it's Missouri and Kentucky are second and
Mhm.
third in the
Yep.
conference.
I mean, Kentucky, there was
Yeah.
somebody on this show that called Kentucky finishing second in the East. I can't remember who that was, but I recall him being ridiculed relentlessly because of
Mm,
that pick.
I didn't ridicule you.
No, I know.
Um,
I'm exaggerating.
yeah. Yeah, but did you think Missouri would be sitting at in the third spot?
No, and we're not doing. We're going to focus. Nobody called that. That's ridiculous. And
Oh
how
man.
about Florida being over Tennessee at this point in the season?
Uh,
Right? I mean, Florida's right there in the middle of the East. What?
yeah.
I
I knew
mean,
Florida was going to be bad, and I knew Tennessee wasn't going to be as good, but I didn't think they were going. It was going to. Yeah, that was crazy. Um,
and
but
four teams from the East are currently ranked.
mhm. If you ask Kirby Smart, he said every SEC team should be ranked. In my opinion,
Hey, man.
that uh look at Missouri's schedule. So they got. I was looking at it earlier. Like the teams that they have scheduled and where they have them scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can see them doing pretty well with that schedule.
Yeah.
Are you looking at it?
Yeah, I am. But I we hadn't gotten to picks yet, but I think the LSU game this weekend is very winnable.
Yeah.
Going to Kentucky, it's going to be tough, but not an
Mhm.
impossible venue to win at. South Carolina comes home. The road trip to Georgia, iffy, but then Tennessee goes to Como.
Yeah.
If that's a night game,
I
oh,
know.
might have something there. So I mean, I can see it.
Potential Mad Hatter.
But wouldn't be the first time.
I can't believe that's LSU spread. It's
Yeah.
less than a touchdown. That's
Hmm.
crazy.
I love it.
I do too. But yeah, just looking at that, and I mean, Florida's not going to finish second. Tennessee at this point is most likely not going to finish second. So you got Kentucky and Missouri hadn't lost. South Carolina doesn't have a chance of finishing second at this point.
Hmm.
Um, having two conference losses and both of them in the East, and then you got Vandy, which obviously doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, no, Vandy is probably the most we're the most confident that Vandy is ranked right now where it will finish in the
Yeah.
conference. I mean, pretty much everybody above them is potentially gonna move. Georgia's probably the second most solid in their spot, but Vandy definitely you can pencil them in. You could write that in ink. Not even pencil them in. You can
Oh,
write that in Sharpie for the rest of the season.
but the West is interesting too because
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean you have Alabama beat Ole Miss beat LSU. What happens if LSU beats Alabama? Like
Well, yeah,
that's gonna be crazy.
it's going to be a nice little three-way tie, and I have not uh, reviewed the tiebreaker scenarios, but with Ole
They're
Miss
crazy.
only having one loss overall, I think they would wind up getting the edge. Um,
I don't think that that's actually. I think that's a further down tiebreaker.
I, I do too. I think that's where it would get to because you can't do head to head record. Um,
Somewhere
the
along in there, it's divisional record.
right, and divisional
So
record. If it's the same, then you've got everybody's 5-1 in division,
hmm,
right? Because if you've got two teams with losses outside the conference, they're not losses in the division.
right.
But lest we forget, the surprise in the West for us at least, Texas A&M finished dead last in the West last week, is playing Alabama this coming week for chance at that top spot for the moment in the West. And it's not like they hadn't beaten the Tide before, but almost
Yeah,
beat them last year. That was a tough game, and this is the return trip to College Station. So anything could happen. I mean, you could wind up seeing a four-way tie among those. One win and two losses, or two wins and one loss across the board. It'd be weird, but wouldn't be unheard of.
yeah. Mm. It's just crazy because you don't know how it's going to finish.
Yep. Yep. It is.
So let's.
It's just weird. It's just weird. That's why we play the games, right?
Yep, that's right. Well, let's jump on into it. Let's start with the Wash State and UCLA game. What's funny about that one is UCLA is favored and they're unranked, and Washington State's ranked 13. That's funny to me.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's weird that UCLA isn't ranked, and going up against that undefeated top, what is it, 13 Washington
Yeah.
State. Washington State's coming off of that big win against Oregon State. They're in pole position for the division up there with Oregon. At least they control their own destiny, and yet UCLA is the 3-point favorite. That is a fascinating layout, and I'm going to give the edge to the Cougars. I think the Cougars go on the road and get it done. Chip Kelly is a fine coach. He succeeds in the Pac-12, and he's done well with UCLA this year overall. But I don't know. I just think Washington State. I think that conference is imbalanced to the north this year, and I think the Cougars are going to take it outright.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that because I don't think Dante Moore is quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still growing and learning as a true freshman. So I'll take the Cougs. And I mean, I'll lay the points at 3. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Those points are for
Yeah, for
UCLA.
UCLA. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I will not take the points. Obviously, I'll take Washington State outright. JB, however, has UCLA in the points.
What does he know? He's been off. He's been off for 2023.
Yeah. All right. Next, Syracuse at North Carolina. UNC is favored by 8.
I can see that. Syracuse has been all right the last couple of years, and they've got a nice little run going on. But I don't know why. I like Mac Brown. It's weird. I shouldn't, but I've always found him to be a fun coach. I've enjoyed watching him. I remember back when he won the title with Vince Young playing quarterback. It was phenomenal run, but North Carolina just hasn't really put it together since he's been there. Had some real talent at the quarterback with Sam Howell the last couple of years. I think they've got it. I think Schrader's doing well. Not Schrader. May is doing really well this year overall. And, defensively, they're doing what it takes to win. And I think, yeah, give me the Tar Heels to win and with the points.
Um, I'm gonna say that the Tar Heels win, but um, I'm gonna give the +8 to Syracuse. I don't think that North Carolina
Oh, okay.
covers.
So not a
Um,
full, not so fast.
yeah, I was tempted to pick Syracuse in this, but simply for the sole fact that it's at North Carolina, um, I'm gonna pick them. I think with Syracuse's quarterback, I think that he's pretty good, and Syracuse is probably a little bit underrated. But yeah, I mean, I think that North Carolina gets it done. I just don't think by the points. I think it's closer than that.
Okay.
All right, and then we have what's the other one I chose?
Notre Dame and Louisville.
Nope, I refuse to pick that one because I don't care.
Okay.
I hope they
Okay.
both lose.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah, I no.
That's the only other one with two ranked teams. Well, well, Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah, that's the other one. Just,
The future SEC matchup.
yeah, and unlike the blasphemous guys in our in the group that say that try to talk about reform theology and say already and not yet. You're
Yeah.
not Jesus here. We're not. Let's not blaspheme here. This is college football. You're not in the SEC yet. Get over it.
Yep.
Uh, the Red River Shootout. Um, Oklahoma at Texas. Texas is favored by 6.5. Who you got, Wes?
Yeah. I mean, call me crazy. Part of me does want to root against Texas because they had the audacity to beat Alabama earlier this year.
Mhm.
But I think they're the real deal. I mean, Quinn Ewers has uh, turned out to be a really solid quarterback. Jonathan Brooks at running back is he's just a beast. And quite honestly, I'm just not sold on what Oklahoma's doing yet with Brent Venables. I think they've got a solid team, good team, just not a great team. I think Texas might actually have a great team this year. So give me Texas to win and the points.
Not so fast.
There it is.
I'm gonna take Oklahoma in this one. Um, I don't know. I'm just part of me thinks I'm wrong, but I'm also just feeling it.
Go with your gut.
We're gonna go with it. Yep, exactly. Uh, so I'm gonna take Oklahoma outright, and no one, absolutely no one, is surprised that JB is taking Oklahoma outright.
That's right.
Um, and he also had North Carolina to win and cover. Forgot to
Okay.
think. Think is what he said. Um, yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into the SEC. First off, there's no need point of picking that game. Does Mississippi State cover over Western Michigan 20.5?
I think so. I think overall, Will Rogers is a fine quarterback, and he will air it out quite a bit, especially after being held back against Bama last week. I think they let it fly. They get some confidence back. They get a little bit of swagger back, and they get back up to 500. So yeah, give me Mississippi State by 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. Okay.
Yep.
All
Oh, he's gonna
right.
be ugly.
He said State by 30. I mean, I'm going to take them to winning, and obviously, and to cover. Well, Western Michigan, like
Yeah.
I'm not expecting too much. Um, all right, Vanderbilt at Florida. Florida's favored by 18.5. Who you got?
I think the Gators win this one. but not by the points. I'm sorry. I'm just not sold on the Gators yet, especially after getting boat raced on the ground against Kentucky this past week. So Florida being home certainly going to help. Vandy being Vandy certainly going to help, but I think with what Kentucky was able to do, Vanderbilt's can put some points on the board, and they're going to keep this closer than the experts think. Well, closer than Vegas thinks anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely taking Florida to win this one. I think I'm going to give them the points, but only because it's in Gainesville. If this game was in Nashville, I think it'd be closer. I think Florida has shown that they've been a little embarrassed this year, like with the way they played and performed. So I'll say they cover, but barely. All right, let's see. Next we have Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is favored by 11.5. Let's see. Hold on. He said Florida by 14. So he's saying
Yeah,
Florida wins but does not cover. Okay.
it's a good pick.
So who you got between Arkansas and Ole Miss?
I think, especially since we've just got done talking about the craziness that's been going on the SEC, we are due for an upset. And what would be more of an upset right now than Arkansas, who's been down extra long fourth quarter win against LSU, than the Razorbacks stealing this one on the road in Oxford. Give me the Razorbacks to pull the upset. JB, pulling for your hogs, buddy.
JB has them as well. Obviously, that's no shocker.
Yeah.
I'm gonna not so fast. I think Ole Miss continues this game they're playing. I think they take it at home. And I'll say they cover the spread. I have not seen much out of Arkansas this year. I hate to say it because I want to root for them and I want to root for Sam Pittman.
Yep.
Just not seeing it. And yeah. So give me Ole Miss with the points. Did you have a Hatter that was non-SEC?
I do not.
Yours is in
Although
the
that could have
SEC,
been that could have been a Hatter, but it's not going to be my Hatter.
but I mean yours is in the SEC.
It sure is.
All right. All right then. Well, mine is not. So
Oh, rewind. You want to do your Hatter before we
yeah.
continue in the SEC? Okay.
So I'm gonna take the Pokes over Kansas State.
Oh, Okie State.
Yeah. Don't know why. I when you
Because you
sent the
think they'll
text
win.
when you asked JB if he had one, I was like, oh crap, I didn't actually pick one. So I've been scrambling to try to get one. And it's funny because I know exactly what yours is now. Um
You should.
um but yeah, so I'm gonna take the Cowboys. Cowboys.
Wow, there's a reference.
Yeah. Um I'm gonna take them over Kansas State. They already dropped one at TCU. I don't know. I'm just that's just what I'm going with. All right. Next we have Alabama at Texas A&M. Let's see. Alabama is a whopping 1.5 favorite. 1.5 point favorite. Wow. Wes, what you got?
A&M doesn't even get the benefit of the field goal for home field advantage. I think Bama has been playing lights out these last couple of weeks since putting Milroe back under center on a permanent basis. It's given some solidity to the offense, especially with watching how the offensive line manhandled Mississippi State this past week. I think they continue running the ball really well. I think they continue getting Milroe involved in the running game, bringing the safeties up so that Milroe can dump it because he's still got that cannon for an arm. He's not there on the short and intermediate throws. We know that, but I think we're starting to gel, or we're starting to see Alabama gel as a unit on offense and on defense, really coming into their own with ball hawking like we saw. So yeah, give me Bama to win and with 1.5, of course, with the points. You're on mute, by the way.
JB has Alabama to win and cover, which, if you pick him to win, you pretty much pick him to cover.
He hates having to pick this game, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I thought about that too. No, I'm going to take Bama, and of course, they win by more than a point. But I do think this game is close.
Yeah.
The way that A&M has played Bama in recent years, I think plays a factor into this. But I don't think if you're wanting me to take Saban or Jimbo, I'm taking Saban. Like, give me the Tide, but I do think it's a close game.
Yeah.
All right, next we'll go Kentucky, Georgia. Number 20, Kentucky at number 1, Georgia. Georgia's favored by 15. Go for it.
Give me the Cats, baby. With Davis running wild, I really think that's going to be where it's at. Kentucky has the number 1 running back in the conference, number 4 running back overall. He cannot be stopped, it seems. And Georgia has a good defense, but they're middle of the road when it comes to stopping the run this year. And as much as Georgia has hit the snooze button to start these games, almost losing against Auburn, if it weren't for those 2 fourth-quarter drives and Brock Bowers, I think Kentucky gets a lead and they milk the for Georgia to overcome. And this is going to be the loss that spurns them. It's just like when Tebow and the Gators lost to Ole Miss and they went on a tear. I see this being a loss that really kicks them into gear, like you were talking about, that wakes them up and says, all right, we got to do this. But they're going to get got here.
So there's 2 not so fast here. I realize that's your Mad Hatter. JB has them Georgia winning by 20. I don't know if I got that, but I think what you're referring to was Georgia and the run game. So something to consider here. Auburn ran most of that with quarterbacks and with read options that were flanking out to the sides. Devin Leary is not going to be doing all that. So it's mostly going to be Ray Davis. And I still think that Georgia's defensive line is still what it needs to be. I don't think they're going to have the success running that they did on Florida. And I don't think, because they don't have a quarterback that runs like Peyton Thorne or whatever the other one's name is, Ashbury, because they don't have guys like that. I don't think they're going to have the same level of effectiveness in running. Yeah, I think they're going to get some yards on the ground. I think Ray Davis is going to get some, but I don't think he's going to have that kind of day again. I'm going to say Georgia wins, but they don't cover. I'm going to say they win 7 to 10 points. I do think this is a good game. If it was at Kroger Field, but it's in Athens, especially the time of it. If it was at Kroger Field at night, I'd probably end up picking Kentucky because Georgia does not play well at Kentucky at night. I don't know what it is. There's something in the air. They cheat. I don't know what it is. Something. I'm joking, of course. There's no cheat. They don't cheat. But something happens and Georgia doesn't play well there at night. But it's in Athens. We're going to get those red lights going that Alabama copied us on in the fourth quarter. Just saying, we did it first. I'll say Georgia wins, but does not cover. All right, finally, what has the potential to be the best matchup, and I thought would be a potential hatter, but the line is not as much as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
LSU travels to Missouri. LSU is favored by 5.5 points.
Yep.
Wes, who you got?
I think if this game was not in Como and if LSU did not lose last week, this would have been a double-digit point spread. I really do. But as it stands, having to go to Como, even though it's early, I think that the edge there is certainly on Missouri's side. And I think a second loss this early in the season for what LSU wanted to accomplish is no other way to say it, a major setback. And give me Missouri to pull the upset here. This is going to be the week of the upset in the SEC. You're going to see Georgia go down. You're going to see Ole Miss go down. And you're going to see LSU go down here. I just got a feeling, like you say, go with your gut. So I'm going to go with my gut and say that Missouri is able to exploit LSU's weaknesses on defense, and LSU is just gassed from the boat race last week with Ole Miss playing basketball on turf. And I think in the fourth quarter, the home field advantage, the midday sun is just going to play right into Missouri's hands.
Yeah, so JB has LSU to win and cover. Here's my thing on this. I was about to pick Missouri. I really was, and I still want to because I see what they're doing this year. It's in Como. Here's my only reason I'm not picking them. LSU just lost a heartbreaker, a tough loss to Ole Miss, and I think they come out pissed. I still think it's a close game. I think the spread is about right. I will take LSU by 6 points.
Ooh, okay.
So, you know what? I'll make it 7 because I don't think if it was Missouri, I'd be saying they win by field goals. But I'll make it an even 7. I think this will be a good game. I think it'll be close. But I give LSU the edge purely because of the game last week. Otherwise, I'd be taking Missouri right now because I think that if they don't have that emotional loss, I think with the way Missouri's playing and the fact they're playing at home, I would give them the nod.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. We both certainly see that the Ole Miss game is going to play into this. We just see it go in two different ways. I see LSU being gassed and demoralized after it. You see them turning the corner and being pissed.
But see, the thing is I actually thought that way at first, the way you're thinking. I could see it going either way.
Mm-hmm.
I almost thought, okay, they're going to lose another one. This is going to be the end of their season. Like, this is going to kill their season kind of thing. I was thinking the exact same way. I don't know. At some point, it just hit me
No, they're not going to be that way. I think mainly because I mean, the thing is like yes, they want a shot at the playoffs, but they also want to go to the SEC championship. If they lose this game, the Alabama game is pretty much irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? So like, because that would be their second conference loss. So then they go up against Alabama. They beat Alabama. They still don't go to the SEC championship.
Right.
So they got to win. So I think this is a must win for LSU. And I think that's part of the reason why they get the win. But again, I think it's as JB likes to say, it's an old slobber knocker.
Burner.
Yeah. I think it's a fight down to the end. Just give LSU the slight nod. So I could even see it being less than 7, honestly, but I don't think it's one of those where it's a 5 or 6 point game. So it's either a field goal or
Missouri
touchdown.
wins off of a game-winning field goal.
If that happens, oh man, I would love that. Not just
And
because it's a kicker.
And gives you the win in fantasy too.
Oh man, can you imagine if I won by 3 points?
Yes.
Or 4 or 5? Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Clutch.
Yeah, he's my kicker in both leagues.
With good reason.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that's all I got, man. You got anything?
No, it was a jam-packed episode. I don't even know how long we went, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Oh man. Well, all right then. Well, just remember, brothers, to let your light shine before men so that they may see your good works